If you're building links yourself, you can get a lot of these links for a fraction of the cost that are on this marketplace. You can be in control. You can build the relationship with the site owner. The thing which people have to remember is time is an asset that is highly diminished, especially in SEO when you're trying to do all these different things, right? Like price, dollar, pounds, etc. Inflation's sky high. If you can exchange currency in exchange for time, that is definitely a trade-off that you want to be making. I remember one talk we did, we signed up 4 or 5 customers off the back of that. 3 of them are still customers. That was probably 2 and a bit years ago. Like that one talk is worth, hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars.
Hey everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today for this newest episode of Link Masters. So today we have Adam Collins. He's the founder of Ignite SEO, and he's joining me for a conversation about his decade of SEO experience that he brings to the table. He's going to share his insights on link building, founding his own agency, and what's going on in the industry today. So thanks so much, Adam, for joining me.
Thank you, Sarah. You made me feel old. Over a decade of experience. It's like got any grey hairs popping up.
Oh, come on. If you say that, then I think I'm older than you. That'll just make me feel worse. And then everyone else who's watching who's older than us is just, we're going to start like a whole complex.
They've switched off. Yeah, they've switched off. No, pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here. Well, I think a decade of experience is an awesome thing to have. We know a lot has changed over the years. So can you help me set the scene for how, say, SEO has changed and what you think the landscape is looking like today?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, my earliest experiences for SEO was I was a junior web developer. So I joined an agency at I think 17, and I remember we had these standards which we'd have to fill in to make sure that the website was ready to launch. And there was all these things about link building, and I was like, "What the hell is link building?" And then I've realized, because this company was like a massive agency, and then Panda and Penguin came along, completely slapped like thousands of their websites. And then my real first experience was setting up an on-site SEO team, which was pretty much meant quickly go into our websites and like remove all of the spam, like start disavowing links left, right, and center, and trying to get these companies sort of out of some form of penalty. So that was my earliest experience. I have to admit, I absolutely despised it, and I was just like, oh, I want to be a web developer. I really just don't want to know this stuff. But then, like many years later, when I set up my own agency, it was like that information, that knowledge was really good. It was very transferable. And then I literally started selling it as a side product, which I think a lot of web agencies do. And then really grew it from there. And I think over time, the web, like offering websites, web agencies, etc. I'm sure there's people who do it very, very well. I'm not saying that, but it's a very saturated market. It's very competitive. It's really a race to the bottom for a lot of agencies. And we found like the SEO was the differentiator, and the customers who had the SEO were doing very, very well. So we just decided I left that agency mid-COVID and decided just to double down on the SEO.
That's quite a time to decide to go out on your own. So talk to me through that transition and why you decided to take the leap in the middle of the pandemic of all times.
Yeah, so I ran the agency. So I was in an agency which I'd ran for probably about 5 years. I think deep down, I knew after 3 years, it wasn't what I wanted to do. The problem with selling like websites and software, especially for like bigger clients, is it's very, very feast and famine. And one of the mistakes I was doing as well, I mean, it's not necessarily a mistake, was trying to be like a jack of all trades, right? So we do websites, do cheap websites, we do expensive websites, we do software, we do pay-per-click, we do SEO. And even though we had a decent sized team, you're just so stretched, right? There's no processes, there's no operations. It just made scaling a nightmare. And I think people should never be scared to pivot. And they shouldn't be scared to pivot, even in SEO, right? You shouldn't be scared to pivot and try new strategies. Just because it worked 2 years ago doesn't mean it works now. And I think try not to rest on your laurels too much and try and adapt with what the marketplace is telling you, really.
100%. I mean, when you're talking about difficulties of scaling, I mean, one thing I've kind of heard from you in the past is like, I understand in your story that you had used to outsource link building and then you decided to bring it in-house at some point. What challenges did you face when initially trying to outsource and figure that out?
Yeah, quite a few things. One is probably like my own OCD a little bit.
Okay.
Like just think, which is, if I'm being honest, having that control there when it comes to quality of links, when it comes to type of link, relevancy. Also, though, it is extremely costly to outsource. And I understand when people say, oh, well, you don't have to build the processes in the house. You don't have to build the software. You don't have to manage the software. You don't have to outreach to the sites or whatever. But even with those things taken into account, it is extremely expensive to be outsourcing link building when you could be doing it in-house. And then the last thing was timescales as well. Like not only quality control, cost, but like the ability to be like, okay, we need to move on this quickly and not have to wait 4-6 weeks for links to be delivered. Oftentimes you don't see the links in advance, then you get the links back, then you moan at the link vendor, then they go try and find you some more. Like months and months can go by. So it's costly, it's inefficient, and the lack of quality control was like the main issues which I had.
I appreciate your perspective on that because, I mean, you've just walked through, I think, a couple major things that other agency owners would face and be like, I hear you and I know what you mean. I'm curious, like taking a step back and we're talking about what you're doing at Ignite. You wanted to start out doing something a little bit different. Like you said, the industry's saturated. Everyone's trying to kind of get in there and offer their services. Can you walk me through what you were setting out to do to make yourself unique? And then I understand that you have this 5-step SEO success framework. I'd love to know what that is,
Sure.
how it works, how it stands out.
Yeah, I think one of the big differentiators, what you have to realize is SEO is, very competitive as well. And we're all sort of slinging the same stuff. And also as well, I think for a customer, it's hard for them to differentiate between what what different SEO companies are doing, right? It's a very good catch-all phrase. So I think one of the things that we did early on, which was probably smart, was coming up with some form of a framework which sets us apart from competition, and then also trying to productize the service as much as we can. And I always give Ryan Stewart from the Blueprint a big shout out. He was heavily influential in in me productizing as much as I can, because the thing is, once it's productized, you can build systems, you can then offshore things, have people in house, and systemize things so you can really outcompete a lot of the competition. But we're not reinventing the wheel. Like I'm not proclaiming we're the best SEO agency in the world or anything like that. We still have a way to go. Our framework has actually just been updated, and now we work in a sort of a 3-phased approach. The first is a foundation 12-week sprint, which customers go through. And in there, we're looking to establish all the technical things, get the strategy, the topical coverage, the topical map sorted, publish content, and build those foundation links. The second 12 weeks, so we sell that as a product, a one-time product, which I feel like marketing managers love, because it gives us we're not ramming a contract down their throat, on the contract, and then at the end of it, we say, look, we'll give you all of the like presentations, etc., so you can go and explain this to the business owners, the directors of the company, so you can be able to communicate the value of the SEO. And then if they buy in, then we sell another 12-week sprint, which is called Authority, which is based on publishing highly authoritative content and then link building, guest posts, link inserts, and PR. And then based on the back of that, again, we help them communicate that to the CEOs, directors, and board. And then after that, really they're bought into the strategy. We move into a momentum phase where we've front loaded a ton of work, and it becomes very, very easy and productized then to be able to deliver. So it's delivering strategy of content to the agreed strategy, and then basically link building each month with quarterly reviews. So we pivot the campaigns every quarter. And why that's very good from an operational point of view, we find, is that we can set out with middle management to meet up once a quarter, and literally we can go through the campaigns very easily and systemize it. So then we know all the campaigns are settled there for the next quarter, and then again it comes to either offshoring things or doing things in house, etc. So that's pretty much how we work. Like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're systemized, and it seems to work quite well, and it seems to be scaling very well as well.
Amazing. Well, I mean, specifically, can we talk about, when it comes to securing links for your clients, what's your main strategy, and does that vary by client?
Yeah, it's a great question. So yeah, our link building strategy, fundamentally, like I said, we used to outsource, and we had the big issues, which I said, right, was quality control, price, and timescales. And then we decided to pivot to Pitchbox, and everything really changed from there. It was probably one of the best investments that we've made as an agency. It is I think it is a learning curve to do in-house initially. But I think if you're focused on systems, and once you get those systems there, it is very repeatable, and you can scale it very well with offshore VAs at a fraction of the cost, especially if you can start to train them. I think one of the things which I really liked about Pitchbox was the ability to be able to see individual users and like the average price that they would be getting. So you can start to figure out, right, how many each of the VAs links are they closing, which are the best negotiators, and then you can give training to the ones which are struggling with like negotiation, etc. So that was a very big part of it. And Pitchbox is what we use for our link inserts and our guest posts. So what we do is, like I said, we publish content. We review the content which we publish on the site over each quarter. The pages which are performing well, which could benefit from some links, we run a Pitchbox campaign on. We find highly relevant sites. We publish the content on the sites. All of that is handled via an offshore team. And then once we have a quality, I think one of the big things which I would say is having a centralized file really does help, especially when you're scaling with a lot of customers. And lastly, as well, making sure that there's an approval process before launch of the link, where what we do is we have link builders approve each other's links. And so they're putting their name against that, saying, yeah, we feel like this passes our standards checklist before the links are launched. And we found that dramatically improved the quality of the links, but also as well, like bringing the price down. So when another VA would see, they'd say, look, this looks too expensive. They'd go back and we could then renegotiate down. So yeah, that's our process. We big proponent of, I still feel guest posts are highly effective now, especially coupled with link inserts. What I would say is really we get a lot of success with making sure the foundations are in place first. I feel like a lot of people jump straight to guest posts and link inserts. So I'd always recommend building the foundation links first and then building the guest posts and link inserts on the top of that.
I mean, out of everything that you've just talked to me about, do you maybe have an example of a campaign that worked particularly well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the good thing about Pitchbox is it simplifies the whole thing. Like, I remember before we used Pitchbox, we used to use, was it Mailshake? And you have to then use hunter.io to find all these emails, then upload it. It's just a nightmare. But the good thing I think about Pitchbox is just the level of automation to do very complex tasks extremely easily. So the vast majority of our campaigns come from blogger outreach campaigns. One of the things that we do is when we're looking for the topics, we do take the primary topic, we take it into something like ChatGPT, and then we ask for similar industries related to this topic, which will give us, 5 or 10 similar industries. Say for one of the customers we do it with is a jewelers. So like, okay, well, the thing is, say, gemstone diamonds. Can you give us, 5 to 10 related categories? Closely related categories that will maybe come up with, I don't know, lab diamonds or whatever. And then off the back of that, we'll then find keywords for each of those. And then we use that to do the prospecting inside Pitchbox. And what that does is it gives us just a substantially larger pool of sites that we can target, which are still loosely and closely relevant to the primary topic. That's something which we do, and that works very, very well. And then the other thing as well is if you set Pitchbox up right with the opportunity search and cherry pickers, like one of the things that all of the team do is we categorize everything by niche, make sure we're keeping track of the costings, all of that information so that we can, if we get a customer say in the jewelry space again, we can literally go into the niche, select jewelry, and then we have a whole host of sites by cost. And then we can go and deliver those links very, very quickly with little to no work, right? It's just like, hey, we worked with you previously on this campaign. We have this site over here. Could you do this? This was the price we had before. It just makes the whole process of scaling link building just a million times easier than doing it cold each time.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you just mentioned ChatGPT, and so I'm loving talking to people about how they're using AI in their strategies. And do you have any other places that you're using AI for link building at your agency? And like, are you leveraging it for ideation, campaign planning? Do you have any specific examples on that front?
Yeah, the campaign planning point is very, very good. It gives you some great ideas. Same with the topic ideation as well. We also use it for looking for opportunities. So one of the things which we found really helped our guest posting was once we published a guest post on the site, making sure it's not orphaned on their site. Okay. And so what we will usually do is we'll ask ChatGPT and say, look, we're doing a guest post on the site about this topic here. Here's the URL. And then we'll say, can you go find us, 3 or 4 similar links or similar articles on that website that we could get internal links back from? And we find that's a really, really great way. It'll go and scrape the site, return, say, 3 logical, suitable ones. And then when we're sending it off to the site owner, we'll say, hey, here's the guest posts. We also, the site, it will perform substantially better if there's some internal links. We found these 3 articles here, and then we'll recommend them to the internal links. And that's benefit, 1, because it's not orphaned, but 2, it will pass the authority down to those pages. So the actual power of the link that you get is just like 10x. So that's something that we do. A lot of the AI stuff that we do is around audits, but that's not so much link building. We probably need to leverage it a little bit more for link building, but yeah, we do a lot with it. Julius AI, I'd highly recommend people check out Julius AI. It's incredible for especially if you're working with data and spreadsheets to work. So we use that heavily for our audits, our content audits, website quality audits, and building our topical maps as well. It's very, very powerful. So I'd recommend checking that out as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been so cool to talk to people recently in this space about how they're leveraging AI, because everyone seems to be just crushing it and using it in so many different facets. And I think we're all learning a lot at the same time, right? There's just too many things coming out at once. Everyone's implementing something new. So it's cool to talk to people about. Do you recommend setting up email personas when conducting outreach rather than using your agency's email domain?
Yeah, so we I won't say what ours is, but yeah, we have a separate one. I would definitely, from my experience, I would definitely recommend using the Google Workspace. Set it up, set the emails up. Now we did something a bit different. We basically created 9 or 10 of the same name, starting with the first name. And the reason for that was because opportunities can be different projects, can have different people emailing. And we found that VAs were sometimes tripping up over themselves because, on one time they're emailing a site under, the name John, and then the next time they're emailing the site, the project's under Sophie, for example. So we found just using Google Workspace, we set up, say, 10 different accounts, all with the same first name, but maybe slight adjustments to the last name, like use a dot, use a hyphen, whatever, use a number at the end for like a date of birth. But fundamentally, they're all coming from the same name. That we found that was nice and easy. It also means as well that you could create one LinkedIn page for whoever the persona is. And realistically, the site owners don't really look into it that deeply from my experience, rather than you having to build 10 different personas for each email account that you work with. But yeah, no, I definitely recommend doing some form of a persona. And I would definitely recommend not saying that you're an SEO agency. So ours is all around content. So we pretend we're a freelance content company. And then by the time they've sent you the PayPal invoice, they're not bothered, right?
Okay. Awesome. I think that's all great insight. Going back to kind of talking all things links, what factors do you consider when evaluating the quality of a link beyond just metrics like domain rating? Like, in your eyes, what makes a link truly valuable from an SEO standpoint?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. That's one of the big things I think when training VAs and training people is to look past, and even customers as well, is to look past like DR, right? DR and DA, because it's like you can go and manipulate that stuff so easily. It's sort of, yeah, it should be used in, combination with 5 or 10 other metrics, I would say. The big things we're focused on is relevancy. Is the site relevant? And using common sense as well, which seems to I don't think sometimes I don't know, common sense is sort of undervalued. Like, does the site look real? Is the site covering like 10 different niches, like from everything from beauty to crypto? Is there right first pages? Like, we will have a complete thing of no right first pages. Is the site getting actual real traffic? But then on the back of that as well, using like Ahrefs to, where's that traffic coming from, right? If the site is about you, and it's amazing because you do see it so often, but and it's so obvious, if the site's about beauty, or say jewelry, keep that one, this site's about jewelry, and this, let's say again, 10,000 hits a month, great, ticks those boxes, it's a good DR, great. But then you go and look at top pages of the keywords, and then traffic coming to the site's about VPN or like cybersecurity or something completely, like that should raise massive red flags. What country is the traffic coming from as well? That's always a big a big thing to check. But I'd say that there were like the main things that we look at is obviously DI is a great tool when used with a combination of things, including traffic, including relevancy. But most importantly, when it comes to traffic, is that traffic? Because the thing is, traffic is the biggest indicator that Google likes the site fundamentally. So if it's passing traffic a lot to the same subject as that what you're trying to build links for, it's probably a good indicator that Google trusts the site when it comes to that specific topic. So they're like the main things that we look at. We look at other things as well, but yeah, I'd say predominantly they're the big things we focus on.
Okay. I love that. Very good insight. I think you've already talked about this a little, but I'm gonna ask and just kind of get your like straight opinion. What's your position on paid links?
Yeah, it comes down to the whole like definition of how you define paid links, right? So
Okay.
if you're saying paid links is going to Fiverr and buy 5,000 links, then no, obviously 100% not. But I feel like if it's a negotiation with a site owner and you're paying for the link, there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like the thing which people have to remember is time is an asset that is highly diminished, especially in SEO when you're trying to do all these different things, right? Like price, dollar, pounds, etc. Inflation's sky high. If you can exchange currency in exchange for time, that is definitely a trade-off that you want to be making. So if you're negotiating with the site owner and you can, you're going to be able to build, double, triple, or quadruple the amount of links in 1/4 of the amount of time just by spending $75 or $100, then yeah, 100% for it. I can't see how Google could ever like figure that out. As long as, like I said, there's not clear right first pages or whatever, there's no way Google's going to be, reading our emails and seeing that we've negotiated, a bottle of whiskey in exchange for a guest post. Like, do you know what I mean? So for me, it just seems like what we're trying, the types of customers we work with as well, they're not huge agents. And we don't work with massive corporates. Like what we work with is like businesses, real businesses who prop up this economy, who need to get the needle moving, and they need to get the rankings, and they need to get some leads. Like for me, that's the priority. And if we can spend a little bit of budget in order to make that happen, then rather than faffing around so worried that Google, I mean, you've seen the Google rankings, like they're not the greatest right now. Google have big problems. So yeah, worrying about paying for a link, I can't see as being a massive issue.
But you just mentioned negotiation. Can you talk to me about your negotiation strategies?
Yeah. So we've tried a few approaches. Sometimes we actually tried putting the price in the subject, which worked quite well in some niches, and actually just lowballing and just saying, look, we're $40 for an article on your site. That did work for some niches. We don't really do that now. We try and take a bit more of a conservative approach with things. Normally, the big goal, we have grading criteria for links. Our big goal is whatever they say on cost, we always try and halve it and go back. And you'll be surprised. A lot of people will spar at you and whatever, but you will genuinely get a lot of people will often say yes. So our VAs are trained based on the site criteria. Would they have grading pricings that they can adhere to? And then obviously if it falls outside of that, they say no to the deal. One of the big things that so actually this is a very good recommendation, I think. One of the good things that we do with links, I think, which has really helped us, is we don't, once they've gave us a price and we've agreed the price, we say, okay, we're going to get back to you. And the reason we do that is because I feel like you can get caught up in, oh, we need to get this link live, we need to get this link live. So instead what we do is we flag it with a flag saying, we call it find a site, meaning this is ready to potentially, we could go and find a suitable site, one of our customers for this, but you could tag it as anything like qualified or whatever. And then we'll go and continue to do the outreach for another a week or 10 days. And then what we then do in Pitchbox is we then go onto the campaign or the project, and then we have a look at, right, over the last, say, 14 days of doing this outreach, who has came back with grading criteria, what's the pricing that they gave, and then we can cherry pick from that the most cost-effective ones, or we can go back and negotiate harder on certain ones. And we find that's the best way of getting best value for price. Also, as well, saying, look, thanks for the price. Yeah, we'll get back to you. Often they'll come back and they'll pull the price down even further because we're willing to walk away from the deal. So yeah, that would be the big thing, which I would say. It's so easy when you're trying to build links and you have a quota to just go, okay, we're going to put, oh, he said yes, whoa, and then go and build the links. Whereas realistically, I think what you should try and do is like say, thanks for that. We'll pass that to our team. We'll be in touch in the next 7 days if this is a good fit for us. And I feel like that is better for everyone and will allow you to choose better links for sure.
How do you stay away from link farms? So we're talking like websites with inflated metrics, like DR built with the sole purpose of selling backlinks. I mean, how do you make sure that kind of when you're going about things that you're not, I don't know, getting in the wrong territory, if you will?
Yeah, the problem with this is the training of the VAs. I think a lot of these sites are usually pretty quick you can spot them. Usually, it's training VAs to do it at scale. That's where, again, like I said, we have a Google Sheet which is for approval, and so even once it's negotiated, etc., it gets put on there. Who the client's for? Have we used this link before? Have we got a relationship with the person? What's the price? What's the link? If it's a link insert, what's the page we're looking at? And then, like I said, someone else in the team will then go in, do additional checks on it to make sure that we're not missing anything. And that has helped us dramatically at being able to find, when someone skipped over it or missed it, having someone else. Because the thing is, we have this thing where we say, look, if you go in and sign that off, like you were saying that goes against you as the checker, not even the person who finds it. I mean, both really, but because you've checked it, like that's your job to be able to identify these things. And again, it comes down to processes, I think, as well. Like there's always going to be ones which get through the net, but I think having like a fixed set of processes that you follow around, how long's the traffic been there for? Where's the traffic coming from? Are there any peaks and troughs? What are the backlinks like? Are there redirects pointing to the site which are passing a lot of the authority? Look at Wayback Machine as well. It's fantastic. We're looking like 3-4 years ago. Is the site in the same niche? Those types of things are what I'd definitely recommend doing. But yeah, I think you also have to accept those. Sometimes things will pass by. And I think as long as you're not doing it at scale and building these dodgy links at scale, Google's probably just not going to, you're just probably not going to get any juice from it whatsoever, rather than you get in some form of penalty, right? It's just if you abuse the strategy that you'd be at risk.
For sure. Well, I mean, still in the same vein as we're talking about risk here, there's some agencies that claim to do link building, but they're actually just buying links from link marketplaces. What are your thoughts on link marketplaces, and is it worth the risk?
If you have a look at a lot of the link marketplaces, it's very easy to see the inventory on their sites. So I think you are always leaving yourself a little bit open. Like, realistically, how hard is it to build a tool yourself to go and scrape all those sites? So if I could do that, and I haven't been a developer for many years, a lot of people could do that. Google could do that, right? Very easily. So I think that taking that into consideration is important. Personally, myself, like the customers who we work with are entrusting us to not risk the site. And I like having the control in-house, the flexibility in-house to be able to build links. Plus as well, like if you're building links yourself, you can get a lot of these links for a fraction of the cost that are on this marketplace. You can be in control. You can build the relationship with the site owner. You can literally from start to finish do this. So I think if you have if you spend, block aside, set aside a couple of months, that seems scary, but a couple of months, get some good VAs, get a good link builder based, locally to you to manage the process. And I think if you can figure it out and do it in-house, then why not? But we personally don't use the marketplaces.
You're speaking so much about your process, and it really does sound like you've created this internal framework for yourself to make things work, to put the checks in place, to hire the right people. I think one part of having an agency that I don't always get to talk to people about is how they build like a sales funnel for their agency. And I've heard that's something that you've spoken about before. So I want to talk to you about it. Like, I'm curious how you built an internal sales funnel for your agency. What kind of inspired that journey, and what lessons could others take from what you've learned about doing that so far?
Yeah, I think sales is an interesting sport, right? Because it's a touch sport for sure. And I think the more touch points that you can have with the customer, the better. I'm still always a big believer of omnipresence, to be fair. Like, you want to be as many places as you can. I'll be completely honest. I'll be the first person to say, though, that growing an agency is tricky. There's a lot of competition, and building a sales funnel for your agency is no small task. I think it's fine to build certain elements which work, but to build something which predictably works is very tricky. Again, we do a similar process, leveraging offshore to do certain tasks, making sure that we're contacting the right type of people on places like LinkedIn. We do our own SEO, which could definitely be done 1,000,000% better, but I think 99% of SEO agencies will probably be guilty of completely neglecting their own SEO. But we do rank quite well for some really good terms. I think, see, this is an important concept as well. It's important to choose the right marketing strategy for your business. And just because we're an SEO agency doesn't necessarily mean that SEO should be the only marketing strategy we do. We have to do it via SEO because we do SEO. SEO works great for some industries, and other industries it doesn't work very well for. Like, it depends on the industry. I've personally found that getting out there and speaking to people, speaking to business owners, paying to be in the right rooms with the right types of business owners and entrepreneurs, and undoubtedly they'll have questions about their website, about their performance. But I'm a big believer of letting them come to me personally, giving them some value, helping them out. And then usually I call it like planting seeds, right? So yeah, a mixture of online and offline when it comes to sales funnels.
I mean, it's interesting because what you're talking about is getting out there and networking and being face to face, which is, I think, funny because having talked to a few different SEOs now, like almost all of them said that they're introverts. Almost all of them were like, I do this because I like to, be on this side of the computer screen and not necessarily in front of people or talking to people all the time. So that's really interesting that your approach is like, no, you are getting out there. You're physically like meeting with people and you're saying, hey, if I just put myself out there, odds are they're going to have a question. Odds are that might be a lead.
100%. Yeah, and I think it's about disarming. So actually, I would say I'm actually quite introverted. But I always find the best way of going, I think it comes down to the room that you're in, for 100%. Making sure that the people there genuinely are the right type of people and you're not pitching people who just have no budget or whatever. But I always actually completely disarm people. So when people ask me what I do, people can agree with it or disagree with it. I make a complete joke about the fact that, I'm a techie, I'm a nerd. Oh, you don't want to know what I do. I do stuff with Google, and I completely downplay it. And what I found is, the reason is like most business owners have been pitched SEO like 5 times probably in the last week from cold calls from, hello, sir, et cetera, et cetera. So they don't want to be pitched, right? And they don't particularly care about it. So I think if you can disarm them, and I think as an introvert, that's a very easy way of doing it because you don't need to go up thinking, oh my God, I need to sales pitch this person. But they'll undoubtedly have questions and they'll do that. I also think the more public speaking that people can do is definitely better. I mean, we've signed up. I remember one talk we did, we signed up 4 or 5 customers off the back of that. 3 of them are still customers. That was probably 2 and a bit years ago. Like that one talk is worth, hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars to us. And it's a 30-minute talk. And I think speaking events are very, very good. But again, it comes down to what are you doing the speaking events? Are you doing speaking events to other SEOs? Or are you doing speaking events at like an industry related conference that you've managed to get into? Like I would take the secondary one rather than, just speaking about SEO to other SEOs, which obviously has its place in masterminds, etc. I'm a big fan of going to those. But if it's looking for client acquisition, doing talks in places where potential customers may be, it just helps elevate your position as an authority in the space.
100%. I mean, some people may be listening to this and be like, hate public speaking. Didn't think that would be the thing that I need to do, but hey, it's like you're saying, it works. And you've come up with some really good insight as to, how to position yourself if you're at one of those events, how to make a speech, a talk work for you. So, who knows, you might be inspiring some people to get out there and face their fears and make it work.
I think everyone should try it once, right? Everyone, try it once. And I think I would always say, just come back to the mirror, put the mirror up, memorize the first 2-3 minutes. And most SEOs are so good and talented and know what they're doing that once you're past the first 2-3 minutes, you're fine. You're just talking about what you know, right? So yeah, I definitely recommend everyone gives it a shot.
Yeah. I think kind of within that same subject, I mean, we're talking about how an agency owner, might grow and expand. And I'm curious, for those who are looking to expand and they want to increase their profit margins, what strategies helped you do that? Do things like reduce overhead, improve profitability for your agency overall?
Yeah, probably one of the better things we've done is implement an operations manager to try and to focus solely on improving efficiency. It does always come down to that, and I always say is that the processes, trying to strip out as much of the bloat as you possibly can. I think us SEOs love SEO, we love the intricacies of it, and realistically, sometimes we're doing stuff and we might spend hours on it and the actual benefit to the customer is marginal. So I think trying to figure out what you feel is the most important things and trying to focus on the tasks and achieving those tasks in the most cost effective way, whether that's creating processes and offshoring things abroad, whether that's using AI to speed up certain things, whether that's making sure that things are built into certain CRM platforms, whether that's using things like Pitchbox again. There's always that weighing up of between like cost, like what's the opportunity cost, and I feel like that's the thing where you have to weigh up and go, right, okay, yeah, this tool is going to cost me 500 quid, 600 quid a month, but what is it going to save me in manpower and time and efficiency, etc. And I feel like you have to do that. So yeah, I think trying to look at it like that, keeping things as stripped back, streamlined, question everything. Does this really need to be in here? If not, get rid of it.
I understand that you also emphasize timeless, evergreen SEO strategies for your clients. I mean, how has that approach helped them remain resilient and thrive through all these algorithm updates?
Yeah, well, I think the good thing is so I always say SEO it's harder now, but it's simpler now, if that makes sense. Like it's the core tenets of what makes a good SEO campaign are probably simpler now to understand than they were like 10 years ago, when there's a lot more trickery, a lot more like black hat stuff would work, and you'd be thinking, should I focus on this? Should I focus on this? I do really feel like when if you make sure the site's technically sound and you focus on these are the specific topics we want to focus on, and you really build robust topical maps for those specific topics, and you go very, very hard at trying to produce the best quality content for those topics, whether that be top of the funnel, into middle, and then bottom of the funnel. I do really feel like that is a very, very powerful way and evergreen way of working. We try and implement the avalanche technique for especially new websites. So making sure that we're targeting keywords which are relatively close to our traffic tier. So like not trying to go after like pie in the sky keywords, but actually going, you know what, if this site's only getting 100 hits per month, let's go for keywords around that sort of bracket, etc., etc., and trying to build up that over time when it comes to traffic, so that you're earning the new traffic, you're earning you're earning the rankings for the new content you're publishing. So it's same with the link building as well, like trying to find genuine relevant sites, publishing real content on. Like I can't ever see why that's not going to work unless Google completely reinvents the wheel. Like those two core tenants, I can't see changing too much. And everything else goes on. There's a lot of noise, but still it comes down to those two tenants, right? It's like, is it the best quality content? And does it have really high quality links? I feel like if you just focus on those two things and try and drown out all the rest of the noise, then I think you'll do probably pretty well.
Talk to me about what your process looked like at Ignite before you started using Pitchbox.
Yeah, it's probably a nightmare when you actually look back at trying to figure out how to do it. To be honest with you, like, I mean, we used like I said, we used some white label, not white label, but like white label sort of link building services. And yeah, it worked. Then we switched, said, look, we really want to do this in house. Especially because it was COVID as well. So we're trying to get as much bang for your buck as we could get and be as efficient. So then we shifted to, finding relevant sites using hunter.io to manually find the email addresses, putting it into a spreadsheet. Then using I think it was called Mailshake to set up these emails which go out and then have like secondary emails which follow it up. But it was a very, very manual process. You still have to find the sites. You still have to check lots of traffic, DR, all manual. It was just incredibly hard to scale, to be honest with you. It was, even with building out VAs doing it, it was a bit of a nightmare. And then again, I think it came to the point where it was like, do we actually want to do this properly? Are we serious about doing this or not? Like, if we want to be taken seriously as an SEO agency, really, we should have this stuff as automated as we possibly can. And it seems like such a critical component to just outsource and just hope that other people are going to do well. So yeah, I mean, you wouldn't put like the cheapest quality petrol in like a brand new Ferrari, right? So that's what our focus was. So we were like, right, okay, let's figure this out. Let's do this in house. And so glad that we did. And it comes down to like, I really feel that being able to create very, very simple step-by-step SOP. So understanding it yourself first, then creating very simple 5 to 10 minute videos on how to do the process, and then going through hiring VAs yourself and seeing them, interviewing them yourself, and then training them up on that process. And yeah, you will go through some VAs. Like we have some stories of some so funny stories with VAs, but you will get like really, really good VAs. And then that's just so much more scalable. Like if you can go through that process, plus you've learned that skill as well about how you can go and hire abroad for a fraction of the cost and still get a better output.
Was there a particular maybe feature that is just making like the biggest difference for your team?
I mean, it always comes back to like the simple opportunity search for cherry picker campaigns. I still feel like that having a centralized area where you can keep a repository of all of the best links that you've built, all of the contact details, the pricings, the niche, all of the metrics, and being able to literally take a campaign, know that you already have links in that sector, and be able to deliver it like literally instantly is incredibly powerful. But then also as well, like the simple things, what you completely overlook with Pitchbox, like the ability to scrape tons of websites and then also, you know, remove ones which don't fit certain criteria, like Ahrefs, DR, traffic, you know, incoming links, whatever it may be. Like all of those things, I think are just absolutely vital. And when I think back to actually doing that, like having to go and find the site owner ourselves, you know, use a piece of software to try and find his email account, then manually check traffic, manually check DR, then have to write an email, send it out. It just so bloated as a time. To be able to do that for thousands of websites with literally the click of a button is, again, it comes back to, like I said, that the opportunity cost of what is this worth actually doing? Like, how does this compare? And it's a no-brainer when you actually think about it. I think we've been a member now for like 4 years with Pitchbox. I'm sure you have lots of customers who do thousands of links. We build a couple of hundred, say, a month, but still, like to build a couple of hundred as a smallish agency, there's 12 or 13 of us. It's great, you know, like the competition who we're competing against aren't going to be able to do that, and we have that efficiency to be able to do that in house. And often the way that when we work with clients, we'll show them the Pitchbox exports from different projects and the reports, and we'll show and say, look, this is how you do link building. And most of these people have like business owners or marketing managers have never seen these types of reports before. And that's where we say, look, we're emailing 6,000, you know, in order to get X amount of responses, and then we've won 65 links or whatever for the campaign. I feel like it's a very, very good tool, because when you actually then take that and then say, yeah, but look, I always ask them, say, look, you don't have to do it. We do it in-house because it means that we're most conscientious about what your budget is. We're trying to get the best links which are going to move the project forward. But you could go and use a few white label providers, and we'll send them to a couple of white label providers, and we'll say, look, you know, there's their pricing. You know, you could go and do it there, and you don't need us whatsoever, but you won't have the consultancy, the strategy, the support, etc. And actually, when they look at that, they start to look at the actual overall cost of doing it with no support using a white label provider. It helps the sales process dramatically. And I think they start to really understand like the scale of what we're doing in house, which is sending thousands of emails, speaking to thousands of websites, building hundreds of links, and managing that whole process end to end. It's a no brainer. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic sales tool. I think the reports are worth their weight in gold.
That's really cool. I mean, that's amazing that you're using those reports and that data to kind of leverage a more holistic picture of what you're doing for your clients and using that a part of your sales process. That's awesome. I guess switching gears, I wanted to wrap up and look forward a bit. You know, as somebody who's working deeply in the industry, where do you see link building heading in the future?
Yeah, so I feel like links are only going to become more and more important, which is really interesting considering, you know, it's been the opposite has sort of been harped on about for many years, like links are dead,
Mhm.
etc. But I feel like the rise in AI content, there's sort of no other way now. Like Google has to prioritize good quality link building over that, because if content is just being churned out at scale, it needs something now to be able to weigh it up again. So I feel like links
Yeah.
are going to be more important. I feel though on the flip side that it's the type of links as well though. So I feel like the more we go forward, it has to be around establishing the brand entity as a trustworthy entity. And that's where I always come back to again, the very, very foundation layer link building, which so many SEOs completely seem to like completely overlook, like making sure you have all of the critical social profiles which the competition have, making sure you're on like Google's reference sites, for example, like sites like Crunchbase, which Google say, LinkedIn company pages. These are good, like reference sites which Google uses, and so many customers want to go straight onto guest posts and link inserts without these types of things. Same with like GMBs, citations, and all that type of stuff. So I would always actually say um, to focus on that type of link building, and then the guest posts and link inserts should be like the cherry on the top, because you should have a very diverse link portfolio, which should look very natural, should be ticking the numerous boxes, and then you should be using guest posts and link inserts to be very, very specific and target key pages on your site where you really want to give that extra boost upwards for. I don't feel like you should just the only strategy you should be would just be churning guest posts at the homepage of the site. Personally, I feel like it's got to, and what I'm saying to that, the macro point I'm trying to make is, in this world now, Google is having a harder and harder time of figuring out who's legitimate and who is not, who's a scammer, who is not. And I feel like if you can really hold, yourself up high, make sure that you're coming across as a trustworthy entity, making sure that you have all of the things a real business would have, and then you're doing guest posts and link inserts, etc. Um, to as like the icing on the cake, then I think you'll do very, very well. So I think it's evergreen for link building, to be honest with you, and I think just the right type of link building and making sure it's diverse and not too one trick pony like. I think you'll be fine.
Looking forward, you personally, what's on the horizon? Like, what's on the horizon for Ignite SEO? Is there any big dreams, any big goals that you have coming up?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through like a stage of, we've got so there's 12 or 13 of us now, and I feel like we came to a point where we needed to, what I was saying before, understand what the limitations are, pivot, put new people in place, unfortunately maybe lose some older team members as well, because it's a very awesome book which I recommend reading. It's, I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but it's about I think the original HR director or manager at Netflix and her hiring process about scaling the team. It's a very, very good thing, and it's all around this concept of actually a business isn't a family. It should be seen as like a team, and the same people which will get you to 10 may not be the same people which get you to 50, which may not be the same people which get you to 200, and about how you have to go through these phases of growth and then reinvention as well in order to stay ahead of the curve. So we've been going through that recently, adapting the team, changing things, and revisiting our product line. And I have to admit, have you ever seen the film The Shining?
Yeah, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the last 2 months, like being my team, have just been like intense, rebuilding our processes, and that's how you end up feeling. Is like, you're just like, oh my god, I'm going to end up like exploding. So it does. You do have to go through periods of like reinvention and shutting the world off, and just getting back to the craft, doing a lot of R&D and trying to figure stuff out. And yeah, it can send you a bit loopy and a bit crazy at times, but you do need to go through that period, I think, and because you do have to spend time like genuinely researching these things, listening to what other influencers in this industry are saying, trying things, testing things, etc. And it can be a very lonely place, I think, sometimes in SEO, especially when you're trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong. So yeah, that would be the main thing. So we're just rebuilding our processes and our products at the minute. That should be launched probably in the next week or two, which streamlines everything. It's a new way of us working, and then it's back on to rebuilding the sales process to try and get us to the next journey point. And then I'm sure in 2 years or a year and a half time, we'll do the same process again and keep pivoting until we get to where we want to go to, I suppose.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you've got the whole team on board, and you guys are all kind of going towards that vision of what's next. So thank you so much for sharing your story with me today and your journey. Hopefully not everyone feels too old talking about the decade of experience.
Yeah.
But you shared some great insight, honestly, some really awesome nuggets. So I can't wait to see what people think when they listen to this interview. Thank you for sharing with us.
No, thank you, Sarah. You've been an amazing host. I appreciate it. Thank you, Pitchbox, as well. They have been real backbone of our agency's growth. And what I would say is, last thing would be, I think a lot of people see Pitchbox like you have to be this massive enterprise company to do it. And that was one of the reasons originally I mentioned speaking to you guys, because I think there's a real misconception that you have to be this massive link building agency. So you have to be this massive enterprise to use it. And I think where where this conversation is quite good is like, no, like you can be an agency of 5, you can be an agency of 10, you can have 5, 10 or 15 customers, smaller customers, and you can still leverage this tool to be highly effective, highly cost efficient, and to help you scale. And I think that the more people that give Pitchbox and take control of this stuff, the better, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. And Ignite SEO, and obviously you can check me out online. It's Adam Collins SEO, pretty much on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. So, but no, thank you for your time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for sharing where people can find you. Cheers. Thanks, Adam.